Ukraine launched one of the most daring and strategically impactful operations since the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. In a meticulously coordinated offensive that stunned the Kremlin and reverberated across global defense communities, Ukrainian forces succeeded in destroying or disabling more than 40 Russian military aircraft located at multiple airbases deep within Russian territory. This bold operation was not only a display of Ukraine's growing technological and tactical prowess, but also a clear signal to Moscow and the world. Ukraine has the capability to strike far beyond the front lines. Codenamed Operation Spider's Web, the mission was a culmination of over a year of secretive planning by the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU. The operation centered around the deployment of 117 explosive-laden FPV drones transported covertly into Russian territory. These drones were hidden inside mobile wooden sheds, mounted on civilian-looking trucks. Moving thousands of kilometers across the vast Russian landscape, these mobile drone launch platforms were strategically parked near military airfields in Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovo, Ryazan, and other regions. Once the drones were in place, the remotely operated sheds opened their roofs, releasing swarms of drones in coordinated waves. Their primary targets: Russian Tu-95 and Tu-22 M3 strategic bombers, aircraft capable of launching long-range cruise missiles, and A-50 surveillance planes that play a key role in Russia's air command structure. These aircraft had been central to Russia's recent bombing campaigns in Ukraine. According to Ukrainian officials, the strike was designed to dismantle the heart of Russia's long-range aerial warfare capability. Remarkably, the operation was executed without direct foreign involvement. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that the entire mission had been conducted by Ukrainian forces using domestically developed drones and tactics. He praised the SBU and military intelligence units for a brilliant outcome that combined operational stealth, technical ingenuity, and psychological impact. Ukrainian sources estimate that over 40 Russian aircraft were either destroyed or rendered inoperable as a result of the attack. This includes a significant portion of Russia's strategic bomber fleet, aircraft that had been essential to Russia's deep strike capabilities against Ukrainian infrastructure and cities. Ukrainian estimates suggest that around 34% of Russia's cruise missile launch platforms were neutralized in this single strike, costing Russia an estimated $7 billion in equipment losses. The imagery that emerged from social media and state channels showed military aircraft burning on the tarmac airbases, engulfed in flames and wreckage scattered across hardened aircraft shelters. In one widely circulated video, tires placed on the wings and fuselages of Russian bombers, meant to confuse drone guidance systems, could be seen smoldering next to the destroyed aircraft, a failed defensive measure that was quickly mocked by Ukrainian and international observers. What made the strike particularly impactful was its geographical depth. The airbases targeted were located over 1,000 kilometers from Ukraine's borders, far beyond the expected operational range of conventional drones. This was a calculated demonstration of Ukraine's ability to innovate in asymmetric warfare, using small, inexpensive unmanned aerial systems to inflict heavy damage on high-value targets protected by layered air defenses. In the aftermath of the attack, Russia launched a massive retaliatory strike against Ukraine, deploying over 470 drones and a barrage of missiles across multiple regions. Ukrainian officials reported at least a dozen deaths and dozens of injuries, along with infrastructure damage. However, the scale of the retaliation was seen by many analysts as a reflexive and emotionally driven move, lacking the strategic precision of Ukraine's drone strike. For the Russian public, the psychological effect was profound. Citizens in far-off cities such as Irkutsk and Yekaterinburg, previously removed from the direct realities of war, suddenly found themselves watching their skies and questioning the effectiveness of Russian air defenses. The narrative that the war was confined to Donbass or border regions collapsed, replaced by growing unease that the homeland itself was now vulnerable. Internally, the Kremlin faced difficult questions. Russian defense commentators and former military officials criticized the lack of foresight, air defense preparedness, and intelligence. There was renewed scrutiny on Russia's strategic bomber doctrine and the vulnerability of its military infrastructure, especially given the reliance on Soviet-era systems. Ironically, this dramatic escalation coincided with a renewed push for diplomacy. Representatives from Ukraine and Russia had a meeting scheduled in Istanbul for a new round of ceasefire negotiations, mediated in part by Turkey and the United Nations. These talks were part of an ongoing international effort to bring an end to the conflict, which by now had entered its fourth year. Ukraine came to the table with a detailed roadmap for peace, including proposals for a 30-day complete ceasefire, mutual repatriation of prisoners of war, the return of thousands of Ukrainian children taken to Russia during the occupation of southern and eastern Ukraine, a bilateral summit between Zelensky and Putin, a clause guaranteeing Ukraine's right to reclaim all internationally recognized territories. Russia's counterdemands remained rooted in conditions long deemed unacceptable by Kyiv: recognition of Crimea and the Donbas as Russian territory, an end to Ukraine's NATO ambitions, and the lifting of all sanctions. These irreconcilable positions underlined the continued diplomatic deadlock, even as both sides expressed a theoretical commitment to negotiation. Observers believe that Ukraine's drone strike was not only a military maneuver, but also a strategic message aimed at the negotiation table. By demonstrating its ability to cripple Russian air power without deploying a single soldier across the border, Ukraine shifted the leverage balance, showcasing its resilience and capacity to fight on its own terms. Ukraine's drone offensive represents more than just a military victory. It marks the arrival of a new doctrine in modern warfare: the successful use of commercially modified remotely operated drones for long-range strikes exemplifies the future of decentralized high-impact combat. With relatively low costs and minimal risk to personnel, drone swarms can bypass traditional defense systems and deliver disproportionate damage. For Russia, the implications are sobering. The idea that its strategic bombers, long considered symbols of global power projection, can be disabled by swarms of consumer-grade drones is a harsh blow to national prestige. For other militaries around the world, the lesson is clear. Air dominance is no longer solely about expensive jets or missile systems. It's about adaptability, resilience, and innovation. Ukraine has shown that it is capable not only of defending its territory, but also of shaping the battlefield far beyond its borders. The war, which began with tanks and infantry columns, is now being fought through lines of code drone controllers and invisible supply chains. The destruction of Russian aircraft in Operation Spider's Web may very well be remembered as a turning point in the Russia-Ukraine war. It signaled a new stage of the conflict, one in which the lines between conventional and unconventional warfare have blurred. It also redefined Ukraine's position not just as a defender of sovereignty, but as an actor capable of sophisticated offensive military operations. As peace talks continue, the outcomes of such daring strikes will shape the dynamics of negotiation. They give Ukraine the confidence and leverage to demand a settlement that reflects its resilience and sacrifice, and they challenge Russia to reconsider its assumptions about technological superiority and strategic depth. In a war where every drone, every maneuver, and every negotiation carries historic weight, Ukraine's strike deep into Russian airspace was more than a military mission. It was a declaration of persistence, innovation, and sovereignty.